Listen, I have been working at the Galactic Quarantine Bureau for 73 cycles now, and let me tell you something. I have seen every kind of idiot you can possibly imagine. I have seen Zorthians try to hug plasma entities. I have seen Kreelas attempt to colonize gas giants without proper equipment. I have even watched a Voxian captain try to land on a neutron star because his navigation system told him it was a beach resort. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened with Deathworld Sigma-9. My name is Crix. By the way, Crix Violin. I am a senior containment officer, which is a fancy way of saying I spend my days making sure morons do not accidentally wander into places that will kill them in 17 different ways before they can even scream. It is not glamorous work, but someone has to do it. The day everything went sideways started like any other boring rotation. I was sitting at my monitoring station, 3 of my eyes watching the scanners while the 4th one was reading the latest gossip feeds. You know, the usual multitasking. My partner, a nervous little Pilthian named Ven, was munching on his synthetic nutrition cubes and complaining about the temperature settings. Again, "It is too cold in here," Ven whined, his 4 arms wrapped around himself dramatically. "It is exactly 22 degrees, I replied without looking up from my screens. "The same temperature it has been for the past 9 years. My species requires warmer environments." "Your species requires you to stop being such a baby. See what I mean about the glamorous life?" Anyway, that is when the proximity alarm started shrieking like a Vaxian death singer. All 4 of my eyes snapped to the main display screen, and what I saw made my primary heart skip exactly 3 beats. There was a ship, a small transport vessel, heading directly towards Sigma-9. Oh no, 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 no. I was already hitting the emergency broadcast button, fingers flying across the control panel. "Unidentified vessel. This is Galactic Quarantine Station Omega-12. You are approaching a Class 5 death world. Repeat, Class 5. That is the highest rating we have. Turn back immediately." Static crackled over the comm system. Then a voice came through. A disgustingly cheerful voice. "Quarantine Station. This is cargo freighter Lucky Break. We copy your message. Thanks for the heads up." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Thank the void. They were turning around. Except they were not turning around. Lucky Break. You are still on approach vector. Did you not hear me? That planet will kill you." "Oh, we heard you." The voice sounded even more cheerful now. "But we are on a schedule. We just need to do a quick surface scan for mineral deposits. In and out, 20 minutes tops. No big deal." I looked at Ven. Ven looked at me. All 4 of his eyes were wide with horror. "Did he just say no big deal?" Ven whispered. "He did indeed say no big deal," I confirmed. I jabbed the comm button again, probably harder than necessary. "Lucky Break. I do not think you understand. Sigma-9 is not rated Class 5 because we felt like it. The atmosphere is toxic to 97% of known species. The surface temperature varies from 300 degrees to -200. There are carnivorous plants, acidic rain, seismic activity that registers off our charts, and something we have labeled as murder hornets. But worse, much worse. Silence on the other end. Good. Maybe I was finally getting through to them. Then, yeah, but we have environmental suits. I actually smacked my forehead. 3 of them, simultaneously. It is a Zentari thing. "Ven, pull up their ship registration," I ordered. Ven's fingers danced across his console. "Lucky Break, cargo class transport. Registered out of, oh void." "What? What is oh void?" "Earth." I felt my blood go cold. "All 4 chambers. Did you just say Earth?" "I did just say Earth. As in the planet of humans. As in the planet of humans. Now, I need to pause here and explain something. Humans are relatively new to the galactic community. They showed up about 50 cycles ago, and ever since then they have been causing all sorts of chaos. Not because they are malicious. Oh no, because they are insane. Humans come from a Class 4 death world. Class 4. Most species evolve on Class 1 planets, which are nice and safe and boring. The most dangerous thing on a Class 1 planet is usually bad weather or maybe an aggressive herbivore. Class 2 planets have some predators and natural disasters. Class 3 planets are genuinely dangerous and most galactic species avoid them. Class 4 planets are literal nightmares. They should not produce intelligent life. The fact that Earth does is considered a statistical impossibility by most xenobiologists. And yet there they are, humans, walking around, thinking they are normal. So when Vin said the ship was registered to Earth, I knew we were in serious trouble. Lucky Break, please identify your crew composition, I said slowly, carefully. Sure thing. We have got Captain Marcus Dune, co-pilot Elena Frost, and engineer Tommy Ward, all human. Why do you ask? Because I needed to know if I should start writing funeral arrangements or not, I thought. But what I said was, Lucky Break, humans may have certain resistance to environmental hazards, but Sigma-9 is exponentially more dangerous than Earth. I am begging you to reconsider. Aw, that is sweet of you to worry. This Captain Dune sounded genuinely touched. But we really need this job. The company is on our backs about quotas, and if we do not bring back some good scan data, they are going to dock our pay. Again, so yeah, we are going down. You are going to die. Probably not. You are definitely going to die. We will be fine. I am looking at the data right now. 47 survey teams have attempted to land on Sigma-9. 47 teams, 0 survivors. There was a pause. Then, well, 48 is a lucky number where we come from. I looked at Ven again. He had his face buried in all 4 of his hands. It really is not, Ven mumbled. The Lucky Break entered Sigma-9's atmosphere and I watched their ship's vital signs like a Krellin watches its eggs, which is to say, obsessively and with growing dread. Okay, we are through the upper atmosphere, Captain Dune's voice crackled over the comm. Wow, it is pretty bumpy. Anyone else feel that turbulence? That is the planet trying to kill you, I said flatly. Huh, good one. He thought I was joking. This human genuinely thought I was joking. Approaching landing site. Another voice chimed in. That must be Elena, the co-pilot. Looks like a nice flat area near what the scanners are saying is a mineral-rich zone. There is no such thing as perfect on Sigma-9, I muttered. Then pulled up their landing zone on the secondary display. I analyzed it with my tactical eye while my other 3 watched the ship's descent. The area did look relatively flat, but that meant nothing. On Sigma-9, flat ground today could be a volcanic fissure tomorrow, or 10 minutes from now. Touching down in 3, 2, 1, and we are down. Dune sounded thrilled. See? Smooth as silk. You worry too much. Station Omega-12. My name is Crix, and I am paid to worry. It is literally my job description. Well, Crix, we appreciate the concern, but we are professionals. We have got this. They had landed in the middle of the Scorpion Flats, which was not actually flat and did not have scorpions. It had something worse. Things we called rippers. 6-legged creatures with mandibles that could chew through reinforced hull plating. They hunted in packs. They were very, very hungry, and they were very, very fast. But I am getting ahead of myself. Elena and I are suiting up, Dune reported. Tommy, you stay with the ship and monitor the systems. Copy that, Cap, Tommy replied. He sounded young, too young to watch his crewmates get eaten by alien monsters. Please reconsider. I tried one more time. At least wait for an environmental survey team. And when would they get here? Approximately 14 days. Yeah, we do not have 14 days. We have bills. Of course they did. Humans and their obsession with currency. I would never understand it. 5 minutes later, Dune and Elena were outside. I was watching their suit telemetry, my anxiety levels climbing higher with each passing second. The surface temperature was hovering at 270 degrees. Their suits were holding, but barely. Wow, it is hot out here, Elena observed. That is because you are standing on what is essentially a frying pan, I said. Good thing we are wearing oven mitts. Then, Dune laughed at his own joke. I did not laugh. Vin did not laugh. This was not funny. This was a tragedy waiting to happen. They moved toward the mineral deposits, their suit cameras sending back footage that made my skin crawl. The landscape was orange and red and angry-looking. Steam vents erupted randomly from cracks in the ground. The sky was a sickly yellow color, and the clouds looked like they were full of acid. Because they were full of acid. Getting some great readings here. Elena said, scanning the rocks with her handheld analyzer. Definitely worth the trip. Command is going to love this. If you make it back alive, I added helpfully. Always with the doom and gloom, this guy. Dune chuckled. That is when the ground started shaking. Is that normal? Tommy's voice came over the comm, edged with concern. Define normal, I replied. The seismic sensors are going crazy, Vin reported, his voice climbing an octave. Major activity. Right under their position. Lucky break, crew, you need to get back to your ship immediately, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and professional. Seismic event incoming. On it, Dune said. No more jokes now. I could hear them running, their breathing heavy over the comm. The ground split open. I am not talking about a little crack. I am talking about a massive fissure that opened up like the planet's mouth, belching heat and smoke and what I can only describe as pure rage. It was 20 meters wide and growing. Run faster, Elena yelled. I am running as fast as this stupid suit will let me, Dune shot back. They were still 40 meters from their ship. The fissure was chasing them. Literally chasing them, spreading across the ground like hungry fingers reaching for prey. Ben was making a high-pitched keening sound. I was pretty sure I was making a similar noise. Come on, come on, come on, Tommy was chanting over the comm. 30 meters. The fissure was gaining. 20 meters. I could see lava bubbling up from the depths. 10 meters. Dune stumbled. My heart stopped. 5 meters. Elena grabbed him, hauled him up. They dove through the airlock just as a geyser of molten rock erupted exactly where they had been standing 3 seconds earlier. The airlock sealed. The ship's engines screamed to life. The lucky brake lifted off just as the entire landing zone collapsed into a lake of lava. I realized I had been holding my breath, all 3 of my lungs. Everyone okay? Dune asked between gasps. Define okay, Elena responded. Still alive counts as okay in my book. They were climbing back through the atmosphere now, and I was tracking their ascent with all 4 eyes. Come on, I thought. Just get clear of the gravity well. Just get to open space. Then you can be someone else's problem. Thanks for the warnings, Crix, Dune said once they were safely in orbit. Sorry we did not listen to you sooner. You did not listen to me at all, I corrected. Fair point. But hey, we got the data. Mission accomplished. You almost died 17 times. But we did not. That is the important part. I opened my mouth to respond, but Van grabbed my arm with 2 of his hands. Crix, he whispered. Crix, look at the long-range scanners. I turned, looked, felt my blood freeze. There was another ship, heading towards Sigma 9. Please tell me that is not what I think it is, I said quietly. Then checked the registration. His face went pale. Earth, another human ship. I triggered the emergency broadcast again. Unidentified vessel, this is Quarantine Station Omega 12. You are approaching a Class 5 death world. Repeat Class 5. Turn back immediately. The response came back almost instantly. Station Omega 12. This is research vessel Bold Venture. We copy your message. We are here to conduct a biological survey. On Sigma 9? That is correct. I looked at the lucky break, still visible on my scanners, as they prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel. They had barely survived a simple mineral scan. This new ship wanted to do biological research. On the ground, for an extended period. Bold venture. I must strongly advise against this course of action. Advice noted. We are proceeding with our mission. Of course they were. How many crew? I asked, dreading the answer. Just one, Dr. James Riker. That is me, by the way. Nice to meet you. One human. Alone. On the most dangerous planet in this entire sector. Then looked at me. What do? We watch, I said grimly. And we hope. Hope for what? That humans are as crazy and resilient as the rumors say. Dr. Riker's ship entered the atmosphere, and unlike the lucky break, he was heading for the jungle region. The jungle region, where the murder hornets lived, and the acid-spitting plants, and the things that we had not even named yet because everyone who saw them died. Dr. Riker, perhaps you would like to reconsider your landing site. I suggested, my voice only slightly desperate. Nope. The jungle is where all the interesting biology is, he replied cheerfully. That is where I need to be. The jungle is where all the interesting biology that wants to eat you is, I corrected. Even better, more to study. This human was going to give me a stress-induced molt. I could feel it coming. His ship touched down in a small clearing. I watched as he powered down the engines, ran through his post-flight checks, and then, without any apparent hesitation, opened the airlock. "Oh, Void, he is getting out," then whispered. "I can see that. Without a weapon. I can see that too." Dr. Riker stepped onto the surface of Sigma-9 wearing nothing but a standard environmental suit and carrying a backpack full of scientific equipment. He looked around, and even through the grainy video feed from his suit camera I could see him smiling. "Magnificent," he breathed. "Absolutely magnificent." The trees around him were 3 times his height, covered in thorns the size of knives, and pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that usually indicated aggressive toxicity. The ground was covered in what looked like moss, but was actually a carnivorous fungus. The air was thick with spores that could cause hemorrhaging in most species. And Dr. Riker was calling it magnificent. "The atmospheric readings are fascinating," he continued, apparently talking to himself or maybe recording a log. "Oxygen levels are actually similar to Earth, though with much higher concentrations of sulfur compounds. The plant life appears to have adapted to the extreme temperature fluctuations. I wonder what kind of cellular structures they have developed." He knelt down to examine the fungus. The carnivorous fungus, the thing that dissolved flesh. "Dr. Riker, I would not touch that if I were you," I said quickly. "Oh? Why not?" He paused, hand hovering above the growth. "It eats meat." "Really? Fascinating. How does it work?" "It dissolves you." "Well, that is what the suit gloves are for." He poked the fungus with one finger. Nothing happened. "See? Perfectly safe." "That is because it needs time to penetrate," then muttered. But Riker had already moved on, examining a nearby tree. He pulled out a scanner and started taking readings. Behind him something moved in the shadows. "Dr. Riker, I am reading movement approximately 15 meters behind you," I warned. He did not even turn around. "What kind of movement?" "The kind that suggests you are being hunted." "Oh, good. I was hoping to observe the local fauna." "The local fauna wants to observe your internal organs." Now he turned, and I got a glimpse of what was stalking him through his suit camera. It was one of the Rippers, a big one. Its 6 legs were spread wide, its mandibles were clicking together in anticipation, and its multiple eyes were locked onto the human like he was the best meal it had seen all week. Which, to be fair, he probably was. Dr. Riker studied the creature. The creature studied him back. I held my breath. "Hexapodal predator," Riker said softly, his scientific brain apparently overriding his survival instincts. "Compound eyes. Chitinous exoskeleton. Mandibular structure suggests a diet of hard-shelled prey. Beautiful." "It is going to kill you," I pointed out. "Maybe," Riker agreed, "but what a way to go, right?" The Ripper charged. And Dr. James Riker, human researcher, did the most insane thing I had ever witnessed in my 73 cycles of service. He charged back. So there I was, watching through a grainy video feed as a human researcher decided that the appropriate response to being charged by a 6-legged apex predator was to run directly at it, not away from it. "Ed, what is he doing?" then shrieked, all 4 of his hands clutching his head in distress. "I have no idea," I admitted, my primary eye locked on the screen while my other 3 eyes were checking medical evac protocols, funeral arrangements, and my own stress levels. The Ripper was the size of a small shuttle. Dr. Riker was the size of, well, a human. This was not going to end well. It could not possibly end well. The laws of physics, biology, and common sense all said this was going to be a massacre. Except that is not what happened. At the last possible second, Riker dropped into a slide. An actual slide, like he was stealing a base in whatever primitive sport humans play. He went right under the Ripper's thorax, between its legs, and as he passed underneath he did something with his hands. I could not see exactly what, but I heard a loud clicking sound followed by an angry screech from the creature. Riker popped up on the other side, rolled to his feet, and sprinted toward a cluster of rocks about 20 meters away. The Ripper spun around, but it was moving slower now, favoring its left side legs. Did he just... what did he... how did he... then could not form complete sentences anymore. Riker reached the rocks and scrambled up onto the highest one, Putting himself about 3 meters off the ground, the Ripper circled below, clicking and hissing, but it did not climb up after him. It just watched, waiting. "Dr. Riker, are you injured?" I asked once I remembered how to operate the communication controls. "Nope, all good." He sounded energized, almost excited. That was exhilarating. That was suicidal. Little bit of both. I could hear him breathing hard. "Did you see that creature? The articulation on those leg joints is incredible, and the mandible strength must be enormous to make that kind of clicking sound." "The mandible strength that almost removed your head?" "Exactly. Fascinating stuff." The Ripper was still circling, but it was definitely limping now. I zoomed in the camera feed and saw what Riker had done. He had jammed something into the joint of one of the creature's legs. It looked like a piece of his equipment, a metal rod or probe of some kind. "Did you just weaponize your scientific instruments?" I asked. "Technically, I just used them to conduct a field test on joint vulnerability," Riker corrected, "for science. That is the most human thing I have ever heard." After about 10 minutes, the Ripper gave up and limped away into the jungle. Riker waited another 5 minutes to make sure it was really gone, then climbed down from his rock perch and went right back to collecting samples. Like nothing had happened, like he had not just nearly died in 12 different ways. "You know what? I am starting to understand why humans call their planet Earth," Lynn said quietly. "Why is that?" "Because they are all completely down to the ground insane." I could not argue with that logic. For the next 6 hours, I watched Dr. Riker explore the jungle. He collected plant samples. He took soil readings. He recorded audio of various creature calls. He made detailed notes about everything he saw, and he almost died approximately 43 times by my count. There was the moment when he stepped on what looked like solid ground but was actually a sinkhole filled with acidic slime. He caught himself on a branch at the last second and pulled himself out, casually commenting that the slime would make an excellent subject for bacterial analysis. There was the time when one of those acid-spitting plants shot a glob of corrosive liquid directly at his helmet. The suit held, barely, and Riker's response was to take a sample of the acid for testing. There was the incident with the swarm of flying creatures that we had designated as Category Red Threat Level 9. They attacked him in a cloud of wings and teeth and poison stingers. Riker dove into a stream, held his breath for almost 3 minutes while they buzzed overhead, then emerged downstream and continued his research. "How is he still alive?" Venon kept asking. Over and over, "How is this possible?" "I genuinely do not know," I replied each time. But here is the thing that really got me. Dr. Riker was not just surviving, he was thriving. Every close call seemed to make him more excited rather than more cautious. Every new discovery had him practically vibrating with enthusiasm. He was having the time of his life on a planet that had killed trained military teams. As the local sun started setting, which on Sigma 9 meant the temperature would drop to -100 and the nocturnal predators would emerge, I expected Riker to head back to his ship. Of course, he did not do that. "Dr. Riker, I strongly recommend you return to your vessel," I said, trying to sound authoritative. "The night cycle on Sigma 9 is even more dangerous than the day cycle." "I know. That is why I want to observe it," he replied. "The behavioral patterns of crepuscular and nocturnal species could provide incredible insights into adaptive evolution. The behavioral pattern of you getting eaten could provide incredible insights into why I drink too much." I muttered. "What was that?" "Nothing. Please return to your ship." "Can't do that, Crix. Sorry, but hey, I set up a shelter. Want to see?" His camera panned around, and I saw what he called a shelter. It was a small dome made from his ship's emergency materials. It was thermally insulated. It had proximity alarms. It even had a small defensive perimeter of sound emitters designed to repel wildlife. It was actually well constructed, thoroughly planned, almost professional. "Did you prepare this in advance?" I asked, surprised. "Of course. I always research my destinations thoroughly before arrival. I studied every report on Sigma 9 that I could access, all 47 failed expeditions. I analyzed what went wrong in each case, and developed strategies to avoid similar outcomes." I blinked, all 4 eyes, simultaneously. "You studied the mission reports?" "Naturally, that is what the safety warnings are for. Right? To learn from past mistakes?" The safety warnings are to tell you not to go there at all. Well, that seems like a waste of good data, Riker said cheerfully. Besides, I have advantages those other teams did not have. What advantages? I am human. There it was, that casual arrogance that seemed to define the entire species, except it was not really arrogance, was it? Because he was actually doing it. He was surviving where 47 other expeditions had failed. Night fell on Sigma-9 like a hammer. The temperature plummeted. The sounds of the jungle changed from dangerous to absolutely terrifying. Things howled in the darkness, things that made my scales itch just hearing them through the audio feed. Riker sat in his shelter, warm and safe, eating something he called a protein bar and recording his observations into his data log. His vital signs were stable, his suit systems were functioning normally. He looked completely relaxed. "You know what the key is," he said suddenly, apparently addressing me directly. "The key to surviving places like this? Overwhelming firepower," I suggested. "Respect," he corrected. "You have to respect the environment, understand it, work with it instead of against it. Every creature here is just trying to survive. Same as me. They are not evil. They are not monsters. They are just doing what evolution designed them to do. That Ripper tried to eat you. From its perspective, I was food. Can't fault it for that. I try to eat things too." I had no response to that. The logic was sound, but it was also insane, which seemed to be the human way. "The other teams that came here," Riker continued, "they came with weapons and armor, and an attitude of conquest. They treated Sigma-9 like an enemy to be defeated. But you can't defeat a planet, you can only learn to coexist with it, or at least survive it long enough to get your research done and leave." "That is surprisingly philosophical," I admitted. "I have a doctorate in xenobiology. Philosophy comes with the territory." Vin had gone home for his sleep cycle, leaving me alone to monitor the human. I settled in for what I expected to be a long, stressful night. My status board showed 14 active threats within 100 meters of Riker's position. The proximity alarms on his shelter were going off every few minutes as things investigated the strange new object in their territory. Around what would have been midnight by Galactic Standard Time, something big started approaching the shelter.
Really big.
My sensors were showing a heat signature the size of a cargo hauler. "Dr. Riker, you have incoming," I warned. "Something large. Very large." "How large are we talking?" He sounded curious rather than concerned. "Approximately 8,000 kilograms." "Excellent. I was hoping to observe one of the megafauna. The megafauna that will crush your shelter like an empty beverage container." "That would be less excellent," he conceded. The thing emerged from the jungle, and my cameras caught a glimpse of it in the infrared spectrum. It had 4 legs, each as thick as tree trunks. A long neck. A head covered in bony plates. It looked like something that should have gone extinct millions of years ago but had clearly missed that particular memo. It walked right up to Riker's shelter and stopped, lowered its massive head, sniffed at the dome with nostrils the size of dinner plates. Inside the shelter, Riker was completely still, barely breathing. His hand was on the controls for the sound emitters, ready to activate them if needed. The creature sniffed again. Then it did something I did not expect. It laid down, right next to the shelter, curled up like some enormous pet, and went to sleep. "Well, that is new," Riker whispered. "What is it doing?" "I think it feels safe here. The sound emitters might be deterring the smaller predators. This big guy is using my shelter as a security system. That is actually quite intelligent. Most species are if you give them a chance to show it." They stayed like that for the rest of the night. The massive herbivore sleeping peacefully next to the shelter, and the human inside making detailed sketches and notes about the creature's physiology. It was the most bizarre scene I had witnessed in my entire career. When dawn came and the temperature started rising again, the creature stood up, stretched in a way that reminded me unsettlingly of a house pet, and ambled off into the jungle. "That was amazing," Riker exclaimed as he started packing up his shelter. "Did you record all of that?" "Every second," I confirmed. "Outstanding. This data is going to be invaluable." He spent the next day exploring a different section of the jungle. He found a cave system and ventured inside despite my protests. He discovered an underground lake filled with bioluminescent organisms. He documented 3 new species of plants and 2 new types of fungi. He nearly got crushed by a rock slide, almost drowned in a flash flood, and was chased by something we still have not identified because it moved too fast for the cameras to capture clearly. It was exhausting, just watching him. On the third day, something changed. I noticed it in the way the local fauna behaved. They were still dangerous, still aggressive when threatened, but they seemed to be giving Riker a wider berth. Like they had learned that the strange bipedal creature was not easy prey. The Rippers stopped attacking on sight. The acid-spitting plants stopped spitting. Even the murder hornets which had swarmed 2 of the previous expeditions seemed content to observe from a distance. "I think they are getting used to me," Riker said as he walked through an area that should have been crawling with predators but was strangely quiet. "Or they have decided you are too much trouble to hunt," I suggested. "Either way, I will take it." On the 5th day, I got a priority alert, a distress beacon, coming from the southern continent. "Ven, are you seeing this?" I asked as my partner rushed back to his station. "I am seeing it. Who is it?" I pulled up the identification codes, felt my heart sink. It is an exploration team, Galactic Survey Corps, 30 crew members. Their ship crashed in the volcanic region. Volcanic region? That is even worse than the jungle. "I am aware of that, thank you." I opened a channel to the distress beacon. "This is Quarantine Station Omega 12. We have received your signal. What is your status?" The response came back weak and broken by static. "This is Commander Talievex of the Survey Corps vessel Far Horizon. We had a catastrophic engine failure. Made an emergency landing, but the impact damaged our communications array. We have injured crew and our ship is not flight capable. Request immediate evac." "Copy that, Commander. Calculating rescue options now." I ran the numbers. The nearest qualified rescue ship was 8 days away. The Survey Corps team would be lucky to survive 8 hours in the volcanic region. The heat alone would cook them in their damaged ship, and if they tried to leave the ship, the environment would kill them in minutes. We needed someone who could reach them faster. Someone who knew how to survive on Sigma-9. Someone absolutely insane enough to try. "Dr. Riker," I said slowly, "I need to ask you something." "Go ahead. How attached are you to your current research schedule?" 30 minutes later, Riker had packed up his equipment, loaded it onto his ship, and was flying toward the southern continent. I had transmitted all the data I had on the crash site, the environmental hazards, and the crew's condition. "This is outside my usual job description," Riker said as he flew. "But I suppose I did take an oath to help people when I could." "You will be fairly compensated," I assured him. "I am not worried about payment. I am worried about how to get 30 people out of an active volcanic zone without proper equipment." "You survived 5 days in the jungle." "I had proper equipment for the jungle. The volcanic region is a completely different environmental profile. Different threats, different challenges. But you will try?" "Of course I will try." What kind of question is that? A human question, I thought, because only a human would consider there to be no other option. The volcanic region of Sigma-9 made the jungle look like a vacation resort. The ground was black volcanic glass that could slice through suit material. Rivers of lava flowed between jagged peaks. The air was thick with ash and poisonous gases. The temperature was high enough to melt most metals. The Far Horizon had crashed on a relatively stable plateau, but that stability was temporary. My sensors showed increasing seismic activity. The plateau would collapse within 12 hours. Probably sooner. Riker landed his ship as close as he safely could, which was still 3 kilometers from the crash site. He would have to cross that distance on foot. "The ground is unstable," I warned him as he geared up. "Watch for cracks. They can open without warning." "Understood." "The ash clouds can cause 0 visibility. You could walk right off a cliff and not know until you are falling." "Got it." "The local predators have evolved to hunt in extreme heat. They are practically invisible against the thermal background." "Noted." He stepped out onto the volcanic glass, and I watched his suit's temperature readings spike immediately. The cooling systems were working overtime just to keep him from cooking. "This is unpleasant," Riker commented. The most understated description of hellish conditions I had ever heard. He started walking, carefully testing each step before putting his full weight down. The volcanic glass crunched under his boots. Ash swirled around him in gray clouds. Every few minutes, a geyser of superheated steam would erupt from a fissure, forcing him to detour around it. After an hour, he had covered 1 kilometer. 2 more to go. How are you holding up? I asked. Hot, tired, and questioning my life choices, he replied. So pretty normal for a Tuesday. It is not Tuesday. Every day is Tuesday when you are this uncomfortable. Another hour passed. Another kilometer. Riker's vital signs were showing stress, but nothing critical. His water reserves were depleting faster than I liked, but he would make it, probably. And the ground started shaking. Oh, come on, Riker groaned. Not now. Seismic event, then yelled. Unnecessary but appreciated. Major activity right under his position. I can feel it, thank you. Riker was running now as fast as the terrain allowed, trying to reach more stable ground. A fissure opened behind him, then another to his left, then one directly in front of him. He was trapped on a shrinking island of solid ground surrounded by cracks that glowed with red heat. Options? He asked, surprisingly calm. I scanned the area frantically. There, a rock formation, 30 meters to his right. If he could reach it before the ground collapsed completely, 30 meters, 2 o'clock. There is an outcropping, I said quickly. You need to jump the fissures. Jump? How wide are they? The narrowest gap is 3 meters. 3 meters? In this suit? On this terrain? I did not say it was a good option. I said it was an option. Riker laughed. Actually laughed. You know what? Fine. I have always wanted to try lava jumping. Seems like a good time. He backed up as far as the shrinking island allowed, took 3 running steps, and launched himself across the gap. For a moment he was airborne, suspended over a river of molten rock. Time seemed to slow down. I held my breath, all 3 lungs screaming. He landed on the other side, stumbled, caught himself, kept running. 2 more jumps, 2 more impossible leaps over certain death. And then he was on the rock formation, solid and stable, while the ground he had been standing on collapsed entirely into a pool of lava. That was new, he panted. Your definition of new concerns me deeply, I replied. The final kilometer took another hour, but eventually Riker reached the crash site. The far horizon was a mess. The hull was breached in several places. The engines were completely destroyed, but it was intact enough to provide shelter for the crew inside. This is Dr. Riker on approach to your position, he called on the emergency frequency. Anyone home? Dr. Riker, this is Commander Vex. Thank the stars. We thought no one was coming. Well, someone had to. Hold tight. I am coming in. He found an intact airlock and cycled through. Inside, the crew was in rough shape. Several had injuries from the crash. All of them were dehydrated and exhausted. But they were alive. You came alone? Commander Vex asked, staring at Riker like he had grown a second head. Seemed faster than waiting for a full rescue team. Riker replied, already unpacking medical supplies. This is a Class 5 death world. I noticed. How did you even get here? Very carefully and with several near-death experiences. Now, who needs medical attention first? For the next 2 hours, Riker worked. He treated injuries. He distributed water and emergency rations. He repaired what he could of the ship's systems, and he came up with a plan. The plateau is going to collapse, he explained to Commander Vex. We have maybe 8 hours. Your ship cannot fly, but mine can. Problem is, my ship can only hold 5 passengers comfortably. So we make 6 trips, Vex said. Across 3 kilometers of unstable volcanic terrain, while the seismic activity gets worse. We would never make it. Then what do you suggest? Riker thought for a moment. Then he smiled, something probably very stupid. His plan was to cannibalize parts from both ships to create a transport sled. They would load all 30 crew members onto it, and Riker's ship would tow them through the air, flying low and slow to avoid the worst of the atmospheric conditions. That is insane, Vex said. You have a better idea? No. Then let us go with insane. It took 4 hours to build the sled. Everyone who could work did work, following Riker's instructions. They used hull plating for the frame, emergency supplies for cushioning, and cargo straps to hold it all together. It looked like something a child might build out of scrap materials, but it held together. They loaded the injured crew members first, strapping them in securely. Then the others. Finally, Commander Vex and Riker climbed aboard his ship, Station Omega-12. Riker called, "We are attempting evac now. This will either work great or end terribly." "I would prefer the former," I replied. Same here. His ship lifted off. The tow cables went taut, and the sled rose into the air. It wobbled. It swayed. It looked like it would fall apart at any second. But it held. Slowly, carefully, Riker flew his ship across the volcanic region, towing 30 people behind him like the galaxy's most dangerous water-skiing trip. The sled bounced through ash clouds. It swung wildly when thermal updrafts hit it. Several of the crew were screaming, and I could not blame them. But Riker held steady, adjusted for every gust of wind, every sudden temperature change, every seismic tremor. His hands were rock solid on the controls. 15 minutes later, they were clear of the volcanic region and over safer terrain. 10 minutes after that, they touched down next to the Far Horizon Crew's emergency beacon. Everyone was alive. Everyone was safe. That was the single most reckless, dangerous, poorly planned rescue operation I have ever witnessed. Commander Vex said once everyone was off the sled and accounted for, but it worked, Riker pointed out. But it worked, she agreed. Thank you. Truly, you saved our lives. Just doing what anyone would do. Anyone human. Maybe? The rest of us have the good sense to be terrified of this planet. Riker smiled. Oh, I was terrified the entire time. Being scared does not mean you stop trying. 3 days later, the proper rescue ships arrived and collected the Far Horizon crew. Dr. Riker stayed on Sigma-9 for another week, completing his research. He documented 43 new species, collected hundreds of samples, and produced what would become the most comprehensive study of Death World ecosystems ever published. When he finally left, heading back to wherever humans go when they are not giving me heart failure, I thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. Word spread through the galactic community. A human had survived Sigma-9, not just survived, thrived, explored, rescued others, did the impossible. And humans being humans, they saw this as a challenge. Within 6 months, there were 12 research teams on Sigma-9. Within a year, there was a permanent research station. Within 2 years, humans had classified it as a viable site for limited colonization. They renamed it too. Death World Sigma-9 became New Frontier. Because of course they did. I got a message from Dr. Riker last week. He is on another Death World now, studying the local wildlife. He says hello. He says the planet is beautiful. He says he almost got eaten by something yesterday, but it is fine because he got some great footage. He asked if I wanted to come visit sometime. I politely declined. But I have to admit something. Watching that humans survive, adapt and succeed where everyone else had failed, it changed my perspective. Maybe Death Worlds are not unconquerable. Maybe they just require a special kind of crazy. The human kind of crazy. And you know what? The galaxy is probably better for it, even if it does give me stress-induced molting. Then walked into the station this morning, saw the latest report from New Frontier showing successful crop yields and expanding infrastructure, and just shook his head. Humans, he muttered. Humans, I agreed. And somewhere out there, Dr. James Riker is probably charging at another apex predator, taking notes and having the time of his life, because that is what humans do. They look at the impossible and say, why not? They see certain death and say, hold my beverage. They hear that no one can survive, and they prove everyone wrong. Not because they are invincible, but because they are too stubborn to quit. And honestly, I am glad they are on our side, even if they do give me nightmares.